How can one single pill ignite a billion-dollar lawsuit, completely change medical history, and, get this, reveal a fundamental secret of physics? Well, today, we're unpacking the incredible story of Norvar, a pill that did all three. Let's dig in.
Our story starts in 2008 with this number, 400%. The maker of a really critical HIV drug called Norvar, a company named Abbott Laboratories, suddenly jacked up the price by 400%. You heard that right. And this move, as you can imagine, sparked immediate and massive outrage from patients who literally relied on this drug to stay alive.
The whole thing was so explosive it triggered this huge lawsuit from AIDS patients. They claimed Abbott was just trying to muscle out the competition. And the stakes? They were absolutely enormous. But it makes you wonder, right? What was it about this particular drug that put it at the center of a potential billion-dollar legal firestorm?
To really get why this was such a huge deal, we have to rewind the clock, back to the pretty desperate days when this drug was first invented.
The early 90s, that was a really terrifying time in the AIDS epidemic. I mean, look at this timeline. By 1992, AIDS was the leading cause of death for young American men. Then, in 95, this new class of drugs, protease inhibitors, showed up and offered this huge glimmer of hope. And just 1 year later, in 1996, Norvar hits the scene.
And wow, this graph right here, it says it all. This is from the original clinical trials, and it is stark. The top line, that's patients on Norvar. The bottom line is a placebo. That gap you see between those two lines, that's not just data, folks. Those are lives. That gap represents a dramatic drop in disease progression or death. It was a true, honest-to-God breakthrough.
But here's the kicker. Norvar had this second, almost accidental superpower. It turned out to be an incredible pharmacokinetic enhancer. Okay, in plain English, it's a booster. Taking just a little bit of Norvar along with other HIV drugs would supercharge their effectiveness. Think of it like a turbocharger for other medicines. This made it an absolutely essential piece of modern HIV treatment.
So Norvar becomes this cornerstone of HIV therapy. It's a miracle drug. But for all its power, the original version had one really annoying everyday problem that made life for patients a real pain.
See, the original drug was a soft gel capsule, and it had to be kept in the fridge. You can imagine what a hassle that was, especially if you needed to travel or didn't have stable housing. So Abbott did the logical thing. They developed a new tablet that was stable at room temperature. A simple, practical, much-needed improvement.
But for regulators at the FDA, this simple change raised a huge red flag. Sure, the active ingredient was exactly the same, but would this new tablet actually behave the exact same way once it was inside a person's body?
And the answer, as it turns out, was a big, loud nope. And the investigation to figure out why takes us on a fascinating dive deep into the science of how drugs work.
So before the FDA can approve a new version of a drug, it has to pass a test. The standard is called bioequivalence, and the idea is pretty simple, really. The new pill has to be absorbed into your body at the same speed and to the same degree as the old one. For all practical purposes, they have to be interchangeable.
Now this is where it gets kind of wild. When they run these tests, they control for everything, and I mean everything. The study protocol specifies every single thing the test subjects eat, right down to a BBQ beef sandwich and oatmeal raisin cookies, with exact calorie counts. I'm not kidding. Nothing can be left to chance. So, how did the new tablet do in this super-controlled test? Well, the results were, let's say, mixed. On one key measurement, AUC, which is basically the total amount of drug that gets into your system, it passed, no problem. But on another critical measure, Cmax, the highest peak level the drug reaches in your blood, it failed, big time.
And this chart right here really paints the picture. The new tablet spiked the peak drug concentration by 26% compared to the old one. That is way outside the FDA's acceptable window. It was a really significant, measurable, and frankly unexpected difference.
So the data was crystal clear, and the FDA's scientific conclusion was unavoidable. These two pills, despite having the same active ingredient, were just not the same. They were not bioequivalent.
But that just opens up a whole new can of worms, doesn't it? How on earth could two pills with the exact same amount of the exact same chemical act so differently inside the body? Well, the answer isn't chemistry, it's physics.
The explanation is this incredible concept called polymorphism. It's the ability of a solid to exist in more than one crystal structure. The classic example you might have heard of is carbon. You arrange the atoms one way, you get soft, gray graphite for a pencil. You arrange those exact same atoms a different way, and you get a hard, brilliant diamond. Same stuff, just a different structure, leading to totally different properties.
And bingo, that is exactly what happened with Norvir. The process used to make the new tablet created a different crystal form, a new polymorph of the drug. And this new crystal structure just happened to dissolve way faster in the stomach, which is what led to that 26% spike in the peak concentration. It was a case of molecular architecture. So the FDA had a real puzzle on its hands. The science said the pills weren't the same, but patients desperately needed this more convenient, room temperature version. So they came up with a really smart, practical solution. First, they stated the scientific fact. Nope, not bioequivalent. Second, they looked at the data and decided that higher peak wasn't a major safety risk. So third, they required a simple change to the label. Just take the new tablet with food. That would slow down absorption and blunt that peak. And finally, with that simple safeguard in place, they approved it.
And that brings our entire crazy journey full circle. A story that kicked off with a massive business controversy over a 400% price hike ended up taking us to a totally different place. To the history of a life-saving drug, to the practical problem of refrigeration, and finally, to the steep scientific mystery that could only be cracked by understanding the physics of crystals. It's wild.
It really just goes to show you that even the most boring, everyday objects can have these incredible, hidden stories to tell if you just look close enough. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Just how much hidden science and history and conflict is packed into the pills sitting in your own medicine cabinet right now.